just got you like, ugh, you know?
Yeah, it was I had to put that on the speakers in my office
Okay. Oh, you bumping like that at the
just so I
job?
can get a better listen of it.
Oh, she's like, that's what's up. All right. Well, you doing it. I'm just listening on this laptop. I'm gonna have to do what you just did because it is raw. Okay, so here we are, everyone. And let me share my screen with you. The Williams family. Williams. My stepdad's name was Roy W. Williams. His mama had like 14 kids, all out of Oklahoma. Nicest people you've ever met in the world. Um, okay, here we go. All right. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So and it shall come to pass when you come into the land in which Yahweh your Elohim is giving, right? That's a participle. He's actively doing this. We have to make sure we put our minds in the story. So when I read the Torah, I always try to act as if I'm actually sitting there and I'm actually listening to what Moshe is saying, so I can kind of capture probably what it was like, right? So when he says when you Tavo, meaning when you will come into this land, and he keeps saying it over and over again, when you come to this land, when you come to this land, the Yah is giving you as an inheritance to possess, and you dwell. I'm reading from right to left, of course, and you're going to dwell in it perfectly. Okay. Verse number 2, that you shall take some of the first fruit of all the produce, which here they call it not the produce. They use another name called the pari. And pari is basically the fruit of the ground. Okay. So that can include the trees and everything, the fruit of the adamah, the peri. Okay. Like, they call wine, I think, peri, right? Fruit. So you got peri, which sounds like pear, right? So peri, which is on the ground, you shall tavu, or tavi, you shall bring it. So always look to see these words and how many times is being used. Okay. You're going to bring this, which shall bring forth from your land. So your land is going to do this for you. Okay. So it's not something that they're going to do, it's something that the land is going to do. She's going to provide this fruit for you, right? And then again, the Most High talks about how he's giving it to you, that you shall set it in a basket and go. Okay. You're going to go halakta to the hamakom in which Yahweh chooses the Elohim to abide, his name there. We don't want to go past this without thinking about what he said, which is he's going to have his name, Yahweh your Elohim, which he chooses in the place, the hamakom, and there, that's where his name's going to be. So this is where all the offerings are supposed to come to the Most High. This is where the Kohanim are there, and they're serving the Most High in his presence. And so this is the reason why I get on people all the time talking about, the Most High's name is in this location and this, that, and you guys always hear me talk about that. We don't ever want to minimize the righteousness and the holiness and the splendor of the Most High by saying that somewhere he has his name somewhere. That's actually not true, which is what they would call a lie, right? So we don't want to do that. Verse number 3, and then here's that word again, 935, uvatha, when you go to the Hakohaim, which is the priest in which exist in those days, and you shall say to him, meaning you shall be made known to him like today, to Yahweh, your Elohim, that I have come. Again, that word again is being used again, 935. Vati, I have come to the country. Okay. So when you bring this basket of fruit from the ground that it brought forth, you're going to say, I've come to the land, not just the country. I've come to the land in which Yahweh Elohim swore, that he swore. Let me see right here. That he swore, let me see, where is it? Yahweh swore to our fathers to give to us. Okay. So this right here is the primary reason why the Most High has given the land to the children of Israel. And it's only for this reason, is because he made us promise to our fathers. And he does not want us to lose sight of that promise. Okay. We cannot afford to lose sight of that. Because if we lose sight of that, then we're going to change the blessings and we're going to change things. We're going to start, coming up with our own ways. And then it's going to kind of move us away from the direction in which the Most High is trying to teach us. Again, he's not trying to hurt our feelings by telling us that you don't have access to these things. He's literally letting us know what things should be. Okay. So if you and I are not having a basket full of fruit, and I don't care if we go get a basket from Costco or whatever, we don't have nowhere to bring it. So the reason why we're reading this, everyone, is because Most High is trying to let us know where you are, where you're located. And for us to start thinking about what has happened to us. Okay. This actual Torah portion should actually probably break your heart. It broke my heart when I found out that I didn't have a basket. It broke my heart when I found out that I'm not in the land. When I found out that I have nothing, okay, of substance that Yah has given me in this place, because it's contaminated. Now we can understand why he says, I'll accept your thanksgiving. I'll accept your Todah Rabbah. I'll accept that. I'll accept your praise and your thanksgiving. I'll accept that. And if he didn't accept it, then we would be totally lost. There would be no reason to have a relationship with us. Verse number 4, and he says, and then he shall take the priest, the basket from your hand and set it down before the altar of Yahweh your Elohim. Verse number 5, you shall answer. So once this priest takes this out of your hand, he says, you're going to answer before Yahweh your Elohim. That Assyrian about to perish was my father. So a lot of people have questions about this Syrian here. He's not calling Jacob literally a Syrian. What he's saying, he's a Arami, right? Arami is from that region. And why he's making reference to this is because this is where he was dwelling for some time. And when he was dwelling there, he worked for his uncle Laban and he got tricked and so forth. And he was there for quite a bit. So he was literally like what you would call a citizen. Okay. And he took that on, but also too, remember it's his uncle, and his uncle is Lavan. Okay. And Uncle Lavan is a Syrian. Okay. So Jacob, his mama was Rivkah, right? Rivkah was a Syrian. She was a Syrian. So when we talk about our heritage, we have to understand that we're not just people that came from Mesopotamia, because that's where Abraham is from. He's from the Ur of Chaldees. Okay. He's Mesopotamian, right? And he was a black man. Okay. He was a man of color. Okay. And the mother of the children of Israel, right, or Jacob, is Assyrian, but she's also relatives with Abraham, right? So what we're seeing, because Abraham's, remember he sent his servant and said, hey, when you go pick a wife for my son, you need to go to my family. I don't need you to go anywhere else. So we see that our culture and our heritage is found in Mesopotamia. And then, of course, when they spread out, Abraham's brother, I believe, is Haran. He went to live in this region, and that's why they're called Arami. Okay, which I think today would be the Armenians, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so we have a rich culture that we've lost, right? So we're not what you would call just the Negro. Okay, we're not just a Negro, right? We are something of another culture. Okay, which I say that we have the Mesopotamian. That's where we are. We're from what they would call the Fertile Crescent. Okay, the most fertile land in the world. Okay, or where things grow really, really well is in Mesopotamia, in the Fertile Crescent. That's where our ancestors are from. So he's saying that his father was the one who was perishing. And what he meant by this, because it is a participle, he's saying that my father has so many different things that were going on with him that Jacob was really in a lot of trouble while he was in the care of his uncle, when he was being a servant to his uncle, trying to work for a wife that he loved, but he got tricked. Okay. So there was a lot of trouble for Jacob. Jacob actually got robbed. Okay. So he didn't only get robbed, but he also got tricked. Okay. Which means he got deceived. Okay. He got taken advantage of. Right. So this is the story of Jacob, right? This Yaakov, this is his story. And so when we understand these things, you can see what's going on with Jacob and what's going on with his children. We're being robbed, we're being tricked, we're being deceived. And that's just the way that it's going to be. We're in trouble. Okay. We're a servant of Yah that's in trouble. Yah has put us in these lands and we're serving these people now, even though we're still Yah's servant. He says, you guys are going to go serve somebody else. So when we go through this, we can't run through it because we can find these things that Yah's trying to open our minds to see. Okay. So not only did he say this about his father, right? I think prior to this, I would just skim right over and would never take in thought about what he's talking about. Okay. So remember, this is something that's being made known to the priest. He has to say these things when he comes. This is the exact words they has to say. And then he gives an account about what his father did, which is paying homage to Yared. Hiwa Yared. Hiwa Yared. He went down to Mitzrayim. Okay. They call it Mitzrayim. Okay. Meaning towards. That right there. Because you notice when you're speaking this language called Mitzrayim, okay? But this is Mitzrayim, and that hey on the end is putting you in a direction. It's like pointing you directly to or going towards Mitzrayim, okay? And he dwelt there as a stranger. It said dwelt, but it's really he abided as a ger, which is a stranger. And so anytime, okay, so here, listen very carefully. We said that he was robbed. We said that he was lied to, okay? We said that he was taken advantage of. He was mistreated, all these different types of things. Now, when you're a stranger and you're in another land, he was scared, okay? He's scared. That's what a ger is. That's what a stranger is. It's somebody's dwelling in a land that's not theirs, and they have no connection to this land. They're terrified. They don't know the people. They don't have no family roots there. It's not theirs. So they really don't have any ownership. They're just wanderers going all the way around. Okay. So all these different things, robbed, lied to, deceived, scared, no ownership, no home, nothing. Okay. And then he calls him a prince. That word right there, Mimukan, is referring to a prince. Okay. Okay. So he's calling him a prince. I think he's making reference to him being called a prince because when you think about our name, Yisrael, don't put that I in there. When you think about our name as Yisrael, okay, those two letters right there, meaning to turn, is the word that's for the word for Sarah, which she's a princess. But also Yisrael means he rules, because rulership has to do with turning one's head. So he's turning someone's, right? So El turns his head, right? And he's going to turn other people's heads in the direction that you want to go. A person is able to do that. They call him a prince. He's a prince. Yisrael's a prince with Yah. Okay. Sarah, his mother's a princess. Okay. So as a prince, he's still being mistreated. Prince means he's royal. Okay. And you need evidence of that. Okay. So I'm going to give some evidence because I want to substantiate the claim that I'm making. So you can understand, like, okay, what is the situation and why are you saying that we're in trouble? And what does Most High want us to get out of here? So what we're going to do right quick is we're going to go to Deuteronomy. Let's see. I'm I'm going to find it in Genesis. And I'm going to go to Genesis chapter number 17. This is for your records. When the Most High is talking to our father Abraham, and he tells him that he is going to give birth, or his wife is going to give birth, and how he changes their names. So listen, let's go right here. Okay, here you go. Verse 15, Elohim said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you are not to call her Sarai, meaning a mockery. Okay, so look how the Most High guided us here. It's perfect. Perfect. Praise be to the living Elohim. Sarai means a mockery. Okay, but you're going to change her name to be Sarah, not Sarai, Sarah, which is princess. Okay, I will bless her. Moreover, I will give you a son by her. Truly, I will bless her. She will be a mother of nations, and kings of peoples will come from her. You see? Kings are going to come. So we're a royal line of people. Okay. When the Most High describes us as his people, we've taken that for granted, just think we're a whole bunch of black people. No, we're not a whole bunch of black people or people of color. We're not a whole bunch of slaves like everyone thinks. We are a certain classification of people. And I think that gets kind of lost in our discussions. And so here he says that he went down to Egypt as a prince there, and he went few in number, which we know he went there with 70 souls, and he became there a nation. So he didn't become a nation after he came out of Mizraim. He became a nation while he was there. And that was to explain all the growth of the sons and the daughters of Israel, because that's what Egypt was concerned with. They were concerned with this nation that was outnumbering them, and they felt like they would take over. So we have to kill them. And they became a great nation, right? And they came from very few, a ma'at, nothing. And they became very powerful and very populous. And that's all for a reason. The Most High is the one who sent them there to become a nation, because that's exactly what he promised our father Abraham, that I'm going to make them a great nation. And he did that while they were in Mizraim, and while they were in trouble, while they were in service and being mistreated. So look at verse number 6. And he says, but mistreated, okay, which is a English translation for the word that I want to talk about, which is ra, okay, which is right here. Ra means evil. It means bad. It means misery. It means one of my favorite words, dysfunction. Okay. So it's very dysfunctional. That's what was going on in Mizraim. Okay. So they were treated badly. They were being oppressed. They were being smashed. They're being crushed. They taken advantage of. They're being killed. They're having so they went from one hot spot to another. Hear what I'm saying? And this is even after the great famine that, what happened with Joseph. And of course, we talked about this in our Torah portions prior, all the different things that happened to Yaakov. Yaakov's daughter was raped. His son was sold into slavery. His other son slept with his wife, got defiled. All kind of stuff happened. He was a stranger in people's lands, and they killed all the people down in Shechem. He was worried about that. Then he got hit with the famine. Then he had to move. Then he went through some mental changes. So it was mental health. It's all bad. So when we talk about these stories, Christians, Hebristians, and a lot of other people in the Jewish community, they all read it like it's a fairy tale, like it's like a beautiful story. It's not a beautiful story. It's a very disturbing story. It's a very troubling story about our roots. But the Most High wants us to understand that this is what he wants them to say. Why am I having you say this? Why is he having this man say this? Why is he reminding them of all the evil? Why do you need to tell about the evil? Why shouldn't you just forget it and move on? Because he's letting you know what's going to happen to us. And he says, Otanu, what they mistreated us? Are we not being mistreated? Yes. Are we getting justice? No. By the Mitzrayim. And they afflicted us. They humbled us. They humiliated us. So when Yah talks about what he's going to do for his people, this is the situation of Koti Pam that I was saying before everyone came on. And I was talking about that things got to get really, really bad for us. They have to. I'm talking bad. In order for our Elohim to show up and to stretch forth his hand and to respond to us, things are going to have to get just as nasty and bad as it was for our father Jacob and his children. Then he said they laid on us labor, kosha, meaning super hard. They just didn't give us a break. There were no Sabbaths or nothing. There was no break time. There was no employee rights or none of that kind of stuff. They just pressed them so hard. And we're saying, well, that's not going to happen. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be worse. Verse number 7, which is interesting. What needs ak? That za'ak means to cry out. That means to scream out because of all the mental anguish that they were having. The question was, when Moses went to him, he said, who shall I tell him sent me? Then that's when the Most High gave him his name and said, tell him that the God of your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has sent me. Well, what is his name? That's what they asked. What is his name? Yah says, tell him that Yohe-Wahe sent you. You know, of course, Ayer Shea has sent you. And he says, make sure that they know my name. So the children of Israel were crying out, okay, to Elohim, Yahweh, but they didn't know Yah. They didn't know Yah. They didn't. Okay, and here's the evidence. They didn't know Yahweh. Okay, 2 places that you can reference to know for sure that this is true, that they didn't know him. And it's significant for us because it's just what it is. While you're in a place of trouble, a lot of people don't know Yah. Now, the only people that do know Yah are the people who have been reading the Torah when Moshe is talking. That's the only way we found out his name. The New Testament never provided us with information and resources to go find out what his name was. Now, can you see how important it is for us to read the Torah? Look, verse number 14 or 13. Moshe said to Yahweh, or Elohim, look, when I appear before the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you. And they asked me, what is his name? They didn't know Yah. What am I to tell them? What am I to tell them? Why is he asking that question? If they already knew the Most High. He said, Elohim said to Moshe, Ayer Asher Ayer, meaning I will be what I will be. That's where you get I am that I am. And he added, but those are verbs. These are verbs. These are actions of his name. I'll be whatever I need to be when I need to be it. Whatever action needs to happen, what he's saying is whatever needs to exist will exist. Okay. And then he said, and he added, here's what you're to say to the people of Israel. Aye, Asher Aye has Aye, I am, or will be, the self-existing one, has sent me to you. That's not his name. That's the verb of his name. And then the Most High then says this. Elohim said further to Moshe, say this to the people of Israel. Yod-He-Wah-He, the Elohim of your fathers, Elohim of Abraham, Elohim of Yitzchak, Elohim of Yaakov, has sent me to you. This is my name forever. This is how I will be remembered generation after generation. That's how important his name is. And that's the name that you and I received. We're going to talk a little bit more later this week about how we're supposed to deal with this Yohe-Wahe. I'm going to turn you guys on to something that I got turned on to just recently. Okay. What else do we know? Well, that's chapter number 3, chapter number 6 in Exodus says this. I'm moving a little quick because we have so much time. Number 6 says, Yahweh, let's start in verse number 1. Yahweh said to Moshe, now you will see what I'm going to do to Pharaoh. With a mighty hand, he will send them off. With force, he will drive them from the land. Okay. That's what Yah tells him. He says, Elohim spoke to Moshe. He said to him, I am Yahweh. That's what that Adonai right there is, Yohe-Wahe. I am Yahweh. I appeared to Abraham, which is true. I appeared to Yitzchak and I appeared to Yaakov as El Shaddai. Although I did not make myself known to them by my name. My name is Yod-He-Wahe. That's why he just told him, I am Yahweh. Okay. And also with them, I will establish my covenant to give them the land of Canaan. So that's what our covenant is about. The land where they wandered about and lived as foreigners. Okay. So that's what he promised, is that land of Canaan. All right. And then this is what he said. Check this out. I was going to leave and I just told me to look down. Moreover, I have heard the groaning of the people of Israel, whom the Egyptians keeping in slavery. And I have remembered my covenant that I made with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That's what I remembered. Okay. And so he then begins to tell us the different things that he's going to do, which we'll get later back later on this week. Okay. So going back to what he said, they cried out to, they said they cried out to Yahweh, their Elohim. They didn't even know Yahweh. They were just crying out. He's talking. They know who he is now because Moshe has told them his name, just like he's told you and I his name. So the only reason why it's being referred to as, because this is the speech or the words that he has to say, and he says, and we cried out to Yahweh, now that they know his name. Not at that time when they were in Mitzrayim did they not know his name, as we saw, and of our fathers, and he heard who? Yahweh eth our kolenu. He heard our voices. That's what he heard. He heard our troubles. And he looked on our affliction and our toil. That's what he looked upon. Okay, so he heard us and he looked on, he gave sight to our affliction, and he also looked at the toil, and he also looked at our oppression. Those are the things that he looked upon. So going back to my initial statement, that it's the only way that Yah is going to come and get anybody out of anything, then number one, there has to be a cry. There has to be this 68:17. Okay. Let's look it up right quick. The 68:17 is to cry out, to call out, okay, to appeal, okay? So he's not just talking about just, he ain't talking just crying. This cry has a purpose behind it, okay? This one here is a literal, I need your help. So when these people begin to cry out to the Most High, this za'ak, when that happens, everyone, they have to be in a place of hardship and that's going to be beyond measure, because if you think about it right now, our cry, let me ask you a question. Do you really think anybody's going to cry out right now? Does everybody seem pretty comfortable to me? What would cause Israel to cry out?
Well, I find myself just praying and asking Yahweh to help us because we're in such dire straits as a nation. And
Yes.
the things that are happening all appear to be against us. It's like nations, well, we knew that they were going to be, but it's like it's really happening.
Yes. 68. Are you talking about just coming against the United States?
Coming against Black people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not just the US, it's everybody, right? So,
I mean, even people in the United States who are coming against Black people for whatever reason.
well, yeah, they hate us, right? And a great deal of them, not all of them, but a very high percentage of them hates the children of Israel, and some of them don't even understand why. Okay. So let's go and search a little deeper for this cry, right? I don't want to leave the cry yet, because we got to understand where we are. I want the Torah to make sense for us. I don't want it to just be a biblical story that we read and we find some satisfaction in what he did for our ancestors, and we really don't understand, because that's the purpose of this guy coming and dropping his basket off, right? So based on him having to do this, look how the Most High has provided us with an entry to understand what needs to happen or what needs to be spoken. Why is that said? It's spoken because he's making reference to what Yah has done for them. Okay. I want to see what kind of verb form this was in, because I lost it. Verse number 7 says here, okay, that's in a call. All right. So looking over here, the ancient, all right, so they have a couple of different things: cry out, call for help, cry out, right? Because you're in distress or a need. Okay, there's a need, there's a distress call, a cry out. Yeah, all right. So where does it come from? Well, it comes from the action of crying. It's said a loud calling. So that's significant. It's a loud calling or a crying out for help. Okay. So we don't really see that happening right now. We don't see people really, as a nation of people, we're not seeing that cry. Okay. But I'm telling you that the Most High is letting us know that cry is necessary for Yah to come, because the man who's saying this is just giving an account of what Yah has done. All right, so he heard our voice, he looked on our affliction, he saw it in our toil and our oppression, verse number 8. And so he brought us out. Well, Yotzienu, he brought us out, Yahweh, from Mitzrayim by a hand of mightiness, right? And with an arm that was stretched out, and with great terror, and with signs and wonders. And he brought us to this place, this Hamakom Hazeh, and he has given it to us, the land of this, a land that's flowing with milk and honey. Okay. So this is the reason why there has to be this cry. Because if Yah's going to bring us back to a land that he promised to our ancestors, because that's what we're after, we're not trying to just get into, good graces so we can be okay and, we have a relationship with him. Yah's relationship is contingent upon him fulfilling the promise that he made to our fathers. And also, too, what he swore by his name. So there's different things which he has sworn to us. Like he says, as surely as I liveth, that this generation is not going to enter the land. As surely as I liveth, I'm going to reign over you as a king. As surely as I live, I'm going to come and gather you from all the nations and all the places I scattered you. I'm going to do that. But it's going to be with great power, and it's going to be with great fierceness. That's what I'm saying. And it has to be done out of a cry, okay? Verse number 10, it says, now behold, I have brought the first, and it's still the person still talking. He says, behold, I brought out the first fruits of the land, which you have given me. Okay. And then he says, to me, Yahweh You shall set it before Yahweh, your Elohim, and you shall worship before Yahweh, your Elohim, and you shall rejoice in every good thing which he has given to you, Yahweh, your Elohim, for your house, and the Levite, the stranger who is among you. Okay. The Lager is among you. Verse number 12, and it says, when you have finished laying aside a tithe of the 10th of the increase in that third year, the tithing, and have given the Levites, the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, so that they may eat within your gates and be filled. So we find there, of course, there's a time of tithing for those social classes that we've been talking about, which the Most High tells us, like he is definitely a father to the fatherless, and he's been a father and a protector of the widow. We went over that before. I do have a scripture, but I don't want to go there right now. And then it says, and then you shall say before Yahweh your Elohim that I have removed, okay, that I have removed the sacred portion from my house, and also have given to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, according to your commandments, okay, which you have commanded me, not have I transgressed your commandments, nor have I forgotten them. So when they brought that basket, they would have to make a declaration that I've done what you said about the social classes of people. I've also kept your commandments. I have never, listen to this, I have never avarti, I've never transgressed, I've never gone outside of your commandments. They couldn't say this without confidence. They couldn't sit there and lie to the priest and say, well, yeah, I'm saying that, I'm just saying it to say it. No. In order for you to do this, you had to be right with the Most High. You had to keep the commandments in which he said. And he says, never have I forgotten them. Okay. So everything about the commandments is connected directly to the bountifulness of the fields in which they were inheriting. And so this is the reason why Yah has brought them to this land. We're brought to the land, everyone, so we can gather that which Yah has given to us and give it back to him and say thank you. And that's what we're missing. We don't have the basket. I'm going to start right there. We don't have the basket. We don't have it. And that should bother us. And we should desire to want to have that basket. We shouldn't be satisfied with just giving a prayer of thanksgiving for having a job and having a roof over our house. That's a roof over our head. Yeah, that's wonderful. I thank Yah for the things that he's done for me. But in all honesty, David has said that he wanted to make sure that he brought offerings to the Most High so he could fulfill his vows that came out of his mouth. And I don't know about you, but I would think that we would want to give Yah more than what we're giving to him. Considering he is the king of the universe and he is the creator of the heavens and the earth. So what is he worthy of? You know, what we're doing right now is very minimal. It is. In comparison to what we are going to be and what we need to do and how we are. And I think too that it's associated with us being in our exile. You know, it's no excuses. We are in our exile, and we can't forget that. But we're also too in a place where he's given us time to think about actually everything that we've lost. So moving forward, continuing down the week, continue to read your Torah portion and take the time to meditate upon what you would want to give to the Most High. Okay, so look at what you've been giving him so far, thus far, and then write something out and ask, you know, just, I'm going to do this and I want you to do it if you'd like. Grab a piece of paper and write on one side, exile, and write on the other side, the promise, the land. Then I want you to write on the exile part everything that you can give to him and that you want to give to him while you're here and what you can. Don't say anything you can't. And then on the other side, I want you to write what you would do when you're back in the land and what you would give to him. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll cause us to think. And it'll cause us to see some things. So all praise be given to the Most High. Are there any remarks before I let you go? Okay. Well, I'm glad that we were able to cover finding out what he was talking about, our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm also happy that we saw that, you know, we're going to stay in his vein about the trouble. That's what we're talking about. That's why he's asking them to mention it all the time when they, so that's everybody that came over with that basket. They'd have to say that, which is reflective of what they went through and what you and I are going through, because we have to be delivered from something. And that something is trouble.